We are here today on this historic day. 46 years ago today, women's privacy and reproductive rights were made legal in the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision. But since that day, there have been numerous efforts that we've all seen across the country at all levels of government to roll back those rights, which is terrifying, and they continue to be vulnerable today. And so we are standing up here today to do everything we can to protect those rights here in Connecticut. And in addition to the terrific bills that have already been mentioned, we'll also be introducing two bills that seek to protect women who wish to breastfeed when they return to the workforce. And this is something I'm learning more about now since just having a baby and learning how challenging it can be navigating breast pumps, which Representative Linehan brought up last year. You probably saw can look like a science experiment if you're not used to seeing those devices. But the two bills we have before us, one has three key provisions. The first is it requires employers to make reasonable efforts to provide a private lactation space that is shielded from the public. That language isn't currently in our statute. And the reason for this is because it can be embarrassing if you have to do this with someone in the public seeing, and many of us have heard horror stories from constituents and friends about their workplaces not offering these private spaces. The second provision requires employers to make reasonable efforts to provide access to a refrigerator and an electrical outlet, which of course are key to actually turning on the pumping devices and safely storing express breast milk in a cold storage space so that bacteria doesn't grow and infect the newborn baby. And the third provision of this bill requires support for up to 3 years, which may sound like a long time, but the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that women try to breastfeed for up to 2 to 3 years if they can. And so much research shows that for women who choose to breastfeed, there's so many positive benefits, both to the health of the mother and the child. It reduces the risk of infections, reduces the risk of pneumonia and asthma and a number of other illnesses. And 80% of women that wish to breastfeed start off breastfeeding, and then that percentage significantly drops down to 25% after a couple months. And one of the main reasons is because of difficulties returning to the workforce and the lack of adequate support. So that's the first bill. And second bill would exempt breastfeeding supplies from the sales tax. Formula is exempt, and we believe that this is a necessary step to help make breastfeeding supplies more affordable. They are protected and covered by insurance under the Affordable Care Act, but of course, with all the attempts we've seen to roll back those rights, we want to make sure that right is still protected here in Connecticut. So again, thank you all for being here. Look forward to working together with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to champion these efforts. Thank you.